was, sorry, president, was the tallest presidents of the past century. With a height of 67 inches, William McKinley was the shortest president of the past century. With a height of 85 inches, Shaquille O'Neal is the tallest player on the Miami Heat basketball team. This was an old question. The mean height of presidents in the past century is 75 inches, 71.5 inches, and the standard deviation is 2.1. The mean height of basketball players for the Miami Heat, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Who was relatively taller? Now, any redneck with a tooth in his head will tell you that Shaquille O'Neal is taller than Lyndon Baines Johnson. But that's not what the question's asking. The key word here is relatively taller. What does relatively taller mean? Does anybody want to take a stab at it? I take the silence as a no. Relatively taller. What does relatively taller mean?
Isn't it above the mean or something?
No. Good guess, though. Relatively taller means who is taller compared to their own population. Who is taller comparing to their own population?
So like basketball players.
Yeah, and presidents. What is the qualifications for being president of the United States?
You have to be a citizen.
You have to be a natural-born citizen, and you have to be how old?
35.
I think it's 35. I don't know. I think it's 35. But the whole point is, does height have anything to do with that? Which president was in a wheelchair?
FDR.
FDR. He was in a wheelchair. So you don't have to be standing up to be president. The governor of Texas is in a wheelchair. So there's no qualification that says you have to be tall to be president of the United States. Although in the last presidential election during the Republican nomination, Jeb Bush stood on his tiptoes whenever they took his picture because he wanted to be the tallest presidential nominee. Guy was an idiot. Anyway, president does not have a qualification of tall. But what if you were a 6-foot second grader? Who would be coming around talking to you when you got to junior high school?
Basketball player.
The basketball coach. Yeah, the basketball coach. Why? Because even though it's not a qualification, because Spud Webb was 5'5", and he could dunk a basketball. Okay? Even though Spud Webb was 5'5", qualifications for being a basketball player does not mean you have to be tall. But tall is a what? Advantage. So, the majority of the population of a basketball league or basketball team is usually going to be tall. All right? So, with that being said, what is LBJ compared to the other presidents? He's a big fish in a little pond. What is Shaq in the National Basketball League? He's a little fish in a what? Big pond. So what you have to do is compare apples to oranges. And this is the part of statistics where you compare apples to oranges. You have to get them both on the same comparison field or table. And that is called a z-score or a standard score. A z-score or a standard score. I don't call it a standard score. This book sucks. It calls it a standard score, but it's called a z-score. A z-score compares apples and oranges. It puts two things on the same scale. How do you do the z-score? Well, z-score for the sample is x minus x bar over standard deviation. a z-score for a population is the same thing, only instead of regular letters, what does it have? What did I tell you population had instead of letters? Starts with a G, R, E, E, K.
Oh, the Greek letters.
Greek letters. X minus mu over standard deviation. So the formula is the same. You don't have to worry about it. The formula is the same. Now what this does is it puts LBJ and Shack on the same table, the same frequency, the same comparison. The one that's further out is the most ER. Further out is the most ER. What do I mean? Shortest, or the shorter of the two, the taller of the two, the wider of the two, the thinner of the two, anything ER. And it's on a scale, instead of having your mean and standard deviation, the mean is 0 and the standard deviation is 1. So 95% of the population is going to be between two standard what? Deviations, just like always. And if you take it to 3, this is unusual and this is an outlier. Unusual and outlier. So, why do they put William McKinley in there? Well, they put William McKinley in there to tell you that presidents do not have to be tall to be what? President. Somebody needs to tell Jeb Bush that. Okay? You don't have to be tall to be president. So, I want you to mark out William McKinley because that's a red herring. What's a red herring?
Irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. It's something it's relevant, but it's irrelevant mathematically. They don't care about him. So mark out with a height of 67 inches, William McKinley was a shorter president. Okay, mark that out because you don't need that. You only need Shaq and LBJ. And for those of you that don't know what LBJ does not stand for LeBron James, okay? LBJ stands for Lyndon Baines Johnson. That's what the original LBJ is. I hate it when people are put, oh, shut up, Hubert. Michael Jordan is the greatest of them all, so I ain't going to say nothing. I hate when people are elevated up to a status they don't deserve, and in my opinion, people, shut up, Hubert. Any of y'all know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
What am I talking about?
I'm talking about how you don't like LeBron James.
I just don't, it ain't that I don't like him. I just don't think he's nowhere on the big toe of Michael Jordan. Anyway, you just count the rings. How many rings Michael Jordan have? 7. How many does LeBron James have? 2. Maybe 2, I think. Okay. So what do? Well, let's write down the information that we're given. So erase I don't want to erase that. I'm going to erase this population down here because that's just the same formula, just different letters. And I'm going to write down LBJ right here. And I'm going to write down Shaq over here. LBJ. How tall was LBJ?
75 inches.
So X is equal to 75. The mean precedence of height is equal to what? 71.5. And the standard deviation is 2.1. Now, Shaq the height of Shaq is 85 inches. And the standard deviation, the mean for basketball players is 80 inches. And the standard deviation for basketball players is 3.3. So get your calculators out, plug and chug, and tell me what you come up with. Take your calculators out, plug and chug, and you should get a number for each one, a z-score for each one.
How many places do you want to round?
2 places, because z-scores are usually taken to 2 decimal places. I'm waiting for everybody to get it done.
Okay.
So I'm going to do the LBJ in red. So it's going to be 75 minus 71.5 over 2.1. 75 minus 71.5 over 2.1. And give me that number.
40.95.
What?
40.95.
75 minus 71 is 4. 4 divided by 2 is 2.
I got 1.6.
It's going to be around 2.
Did it all together. That's probably why it did that.
Can't do that. The calculator don't know what to do.
I got 1.66.
Okay? 1.67 or 6667, whatever. Everybody get that? Okay? I'm going to plot that in red right here. 1.67 will be right here. And that's LBJ. Okay, now let's do Shaq. I'll do Shaq in blue. 85 minus 80 over 3.3. That's going to be 5 over 3.3. Somebody give me that number.
1.52.
1.52. And Shaq goes right here. So who is most ER? The one that's further what?
Further out.
Who's further out?
LBJ.
LBJ is relatively taller. Now, like I said, any redneck with a tooth in his head can tell you that Shaq is taller than LBJ. Shaq is taller than any president. Shaq is taller than 90% of the population. Okay? That's not what the question's asking. The question is saying who is taller with respect to their own population. Shaq is a little fish in a big pond. He is a little fish, even though little and Shaq don't go together. He's a little fish in a big pond because all basketball players, mostly all, are what? Tall.
Tall.
Now, why is LBJ a big fish in a little pond?
Because he's relatively taller than.
Well, he's tall, but there's no what? No prerequisite of height for the what?
President.
There's no advantage. There's no prerequisite. There's nothing to be president except 35 years old and what? A natural born citizen. And of course, they can't have a felony or anything like that, be in jail or, stuff like that. But there's nothing that says a 3-foot person, I don't know what you call them now, you can't call them anything because it's offensive. A 3-foot person cannot be President of the United States. Now, that's one aspect of the z-score. Here is another aspect. There is another formula that goes with z-scores. And I like to call it, I use the population because if you use the sample, you can't memorize it like you can. So I say X is equal to Oz plus mu. Now this is when you're trying to find the X, okay? And you have to use the table or inverse norm on your calculator to find the z-score. All right? So here's the type problem that they'll say. They'll say, okay, you got a mean, or let's see, I'm trying to think how they would ask this problem. Z-score. Okay, you got a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 25. So mu is equal to 100 and a standard deviation of 25. And of course this is 125 and this is 150 and this is 75 and this is what, 50? Okay? And they say, what is the score that represents the 40th percentile? Write that down. What is the score? Let's say this is IQ scores, okay? What is the IQ score that represents the 40th percentile? Okay, remember our gas gauge?
Yes.
See, this is 80. This is a quarter of a tank. This is a half a tank. Oops. This is a half a tank. This is 3/4 of a tank. And this is what? Full. So where would, did I just turn the presentation off?
Yeah.
I swear I hate it. When I went up there and put the 1/2, I hit the X for the presentation. Try that. See if it comes on. Why ain't it coming on? There it goes.
Okay.
Y'all got it?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So where is 40%? Well, 40% is going to be below 50, right? So somewhere in here, and I'll put it in blue, somewhere in here I'm going to put a wave because I don't know where it is. I know this is 50%, so I'm going to say this right here represents 40%. But I don't know anything. I don't know the z-score. All I know is that this area right here is how do you say 40%? Well, that'd be 0.0040, right? Or 0.4000. Yeah, there you go. All right, there's our area right there. Area and percent is the same thing in statistics. Okay? So, what do I do? I got to find that z-score because do I have the standard deviation? Yes. Standard deviation is what? 25. Do I have mu? 100. I've got that. So I need what? I need the z-score. So what I do? Well, go to your calculator. Everybody go to your calculator, which is your TI-83 or above. And I'm going to go pull mine up so everybody can see what I'm doing. Now here's when everybody goes, oh, I got a TI-83. What does the syllabus say you need for this class?
TI-83
or above. Okay, so don't play that, all right? Because everybody usually says that, and it says it on the syllabus. So borrow, beg, or steal one, whichever one you need to do. All right, hit second, and then hit VARS, VARS. then go down to inverse norm. Write that down. So second vars, inverse norm. I'm going to pull this over and make it big. I'm going to go down here and I'm going to put it in red. Second, that's the second, that's the orange key, or yellow, whatever you want to call it. Second vars, and then inverse norm, number 3, inverse norm, and then put in 0.04, let's see, what, 0.4, sorry, 0.4000. Now the reason I say 4 digits, even though they're zeros, is because whenever you put in a area, it has to be how many digits? It has to be 4 digits, and not all the time is it going to be zeros. Okay? There's going to be numbers here in different problems. And somebody give me that z-score. Well, let me ask you a question. The z-score here is 0, right? The z-score is 0. This is 1. This is 2. This is -1, and this is -2. Somebody tell me what they think it is just by looking at this graph. I say it's around negative. It's less than what? It's less than 0, so it's got to be negative. All right, now, somebody look at your calculator, and it's not -1. So it's going to be between 0 and -1. So what is your z-score? Negative what?
Mine is definitely not right.
Okay, well, I'll do it on the calculator.
Is it supposed to be on radian or degree?
It don't matter on this. Inverse norm, and then I'm going to type in 0.4000, close parenthesis, and enter. That's it, -0.25. -0.25. Write that down because that goes where? Right here. Now somebody calculate. Now before you calculate, somebody tell me what's between 75 and 100, usually about 3/4 of the way. Well, 75 to 125, 12. So 12 would be halfway. So what's 75 or 100 minus 12? 88? So that's going to be 88. Half of 12 is 6. So half of 12 is 6. So that's going to be what? 94? I'm going to say it's around 94. I'm going to say that's what my score is going to come out to be because I'm using this sketch as a guide. Okay? So somebody tell me what you get when you take 1/4 of 25 and add it to 100. Somebody tell me what you get. Oh, sorry, it's a negative. Negative. Don't forget the negative. Negative 0.25 times 25 plus 100.
93.75.
It's a miracle.
That's what I got too.
So my 93.75. And what did I say it was going to be? It's a
94.
miracle. So if you make a 95 on this IQ test, that means you're in the top 60%. What if you make a 72? You're in the 40th percentile. All right, let's do a nerd. Who's got a question on this one? I hope everybody has a TI-83 or above. Make sure you do. If you don't, let everybody share, okay? If you can't buy one, make sure you share. All right, let's do a nerd. X is equal to Oz plus mu, And X, this is usually, when you see this X and it doesn't have anything, that's usually a test score, a test score, a height, a weight, whatever you're looking for, that's what X is, okay? It's usually going to be a height, a weight, a test score, whatever, okay? And Oz is going to be given, that's going to be given. And this is going to be given. So all you got to do is find what? The z-score. So let's say that you got IQ scores and it's got a mean of 100 and a standard deviation of 50. Let's see, what is that? 150. Negative 50. And what? 0? That be right?
Yeah.
And I want to find the score that represents the 75th percentile. Well, the 75th percentile, we know this is 50 and this is 34. Remember your empirical rule? Let's see, what is the empirical rule? 2.5 and then 13.5 and then 34 and then 34 and then 13.5 and then 2.5. Everybody remember that? Okay, what is this side right here? 50%, right? This right here is 50%. This is 34. What's 50 plus 34? 84%. So you know 75% is going to be back in here somewhere, right? So I'm just going to write a squiggly line, meaning I think 75% is going to be somewhere in here. And I want to know this z-score right here. Well, Hubert, do you have a guess? Yeah. I think it's going to be around 1.6. 0.6. Why? Because this is a z-score of 0. This is a z-score of what? 1, 2, negative 1, negative 2. So where am I? Where's my blue arrow? It's about halfway. So somewhere around 0.5 or 0.6 is my z-score. Now somebody do inverse norm 0.7500 and give me a z-score.
0.674.
I'm sorry, point what?
0.67449.
67 is good enough because z-scores are usually 2 decimal places. Areas are 4 decimal places. So I'm going to take that 0.67 and I'm going to go over here. And then I'm going to plug in my 100 and my 50. And somebody give me that new X. Well, let me look. What's half of 100 and 150? What's half the way? What's between 100 and 150?
124.
120 what? What's half of 50 cent?
25.
Thank you. So what's halfway between 100 and 150?
125.
125. Okay, so if 50% is at 125, then I'm going to say around 130, 133, somewhere in there. What do y'all get?
133.5.
133.5. I was off by half. So what if you made 150 on this test? You would be in the top what? You'd be in the top 25th percentile. What if you made a 134? You would be in the top 25th percentile. What if you made a 6? We won't talk about that. Now, what does that mean we have done today?
Finished 6.
We have just finished chapter 6. This is when y'all supposed to spaz out now. Y'all ready to spaz out? Y'all ready to jump around like ping pong balls in a room full of mouse traps? Because that's what y'all are going to do. No, you're not, because I'm going to tell you what we're going to do. What are y'all supposed to be doing for homework tonight?
6C.
You're supposed to finish 6C. Okay? Wednesday, we are going to be going over the test. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to pull up the chapter 1, the unit 1 test. What the heck is that? What the heck is going on? Review the unit 1 test. I'm going to pull it up. I'm going to review it. I'm going to go over it. It's not going to be the same test you have. It's going to be similar, but it's not going to be the same test. Everybody with me? Then after we finish that test, guess what I'm going to do? Anybody want to take a guess what I'm going to do?
Open the test.
No, I'm going to open it. Yes, that's that. Yeah, that's right. I'm going to open the test, and if I open it, that means I'm also going to what? I'm going to put what kind of date on it? A termination date.
Yeah.
And if I put a termination date on the test, then what am I going to do? I'm going to terminate what?
The homework.
The homework. I'm going to give you a homework termination date. So after Wednesday, you'll know when everything is what?
Great.
Due. So you won't have to ask who? Me. Isn't that great how this works out? But everybody should be, the only thing you should be working on between now and Wednesday is 6C. You shouldn't be working on 5A. You should be working on 5C, because I have not received any questions from y'all. So that means one of two things, or both. What are they?
We procrastinated.
You have procrastinated and hadn't done a dang thing. I don't believe that, because I believe that with the two males, but I've got 75% females in this class. Okay? Females do not what? They usually do not procrastinate. Guys do. Okay? Guys, I'm sorry. I know you're my own kind, but I can't, that's true. All right? So, I'm sorry. All right? So, I have taken that out. So, evidently, I've covered the material to where y'all know the material. Okay? That's the only thing I can come up with. Because I do not think that I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 procrastinating women. I know I don't. Okay? Now, Coney, how far are you on the homework?
Pretty far. I'm on I'm on 6B, I think, and then I have to do 6C.
Then you're good. How about the fellow in the back of Easley campus? I'm terrible with names. Y'all just have to, I can walk up to you 6 years from now and remember your face, but I can't remember the name 5 minutes after I hear it. Except for Miss Riddle. I don't know why I remember that. Maybe it's because that's the original last name. But how about the guy in the back of Easley campus? Where are you at?
I'm at the same as Oconee.
Good. Well, then I prove my theory is wrong, okay? I'm just the only one that procrastinates. How about that? All right, who's got a question? Okay, y'all get out of here. We'll go over everything Wednesday, and then y'all will be ready for a test. Make sure you send questions in. Y'all have a wonderful Monday.
You too.
I'll try.